Happy Friday. We're reporting live from FarCon, where we are experiencing a lot of FOMO not being there with the base and Farcaster teams. Today is Friday, May 2nd, 2025. I'm Sweets, this is Sid, and this is our hour-long conversation where we talk about Recoup and build this company in public. On my side, the things I would like to talk about today are what I shipped, are errors below 25%, what's the ideal flow for setting up new artists going into onboarding, and the main goal of these calls, what specific tasks are my priorities for next week. Kicking it off how I always do, over to you. How are you doing today? In one word, how are you feeling today? And in one sentence, what do you need today?
In one word, I'm feeling rejuvenated. In one word, what do I need today? To stretch. How about you?
Feeling a little lonely. And I need to touch grass after this.
That's a good one. Grass is always good.
Yeah, just unplug from the internet, come back to real humans in real life.
Is it the FOMO of of the conference?
That most likely is playing into it some level. Just got back and moved in, and there's probably a lot that touch grass. I want to remind myself to do that. Touch grass. Cool. And do you have a list of things you want me to add to our priorities for today, or is your list directly overlapping with mine?
Mine directly, yeah, directly overlaps.
Nothing, because I haven't included veer ball into here.
Oh yeah, I mean that include that and then customer success.
Veer ball, customer success. We have 57 minutes left in our call. Talk about what shipped. Talk about if errors are below 25%. Talk about ideal onboarding flow for setting up new artists. What specific tasks are the priorities for next week? Veer ball or customer success? Where can we focus next to add the most impact into the call?
I think let's start with review last week's ships.
Do you want to kick it off, or should I?
Kick it off, man. You shipped a lot of great stuff.
I shipped a lot this week, everybody, and I'm going to talk you through all of it because I'm very happy with the momentum of this past week. So if you're watching this and you don't know if I'm listening to what y'all are saying, one of my faves, Mackin, has been sending me a lot of feedback because he's using it. And the thing that he asked for is, he said, what is this custom instructions field? He didn't know what it was. I replied to him what it was. And then he said, can you add it as a placeholder text? So this one was built specifically for you, Mackin. If you're not watching now, I'm going to reach out to you after this. Your custom instructions up here, if you remove the text, did it finish deploying? I didn't test this before shipping it. I opened the pull request. It looked good. I was a little bit late to this meeting, and I just clicked ship.
Let's ship it right now, live, baby.
I thought I already did ship it. So the question is, why did I just not write the code correctly? The latest deployment was main shipping custom instructions. It should be here. Let me do a hard refresh. As long as the code was written correctly, I added a placeholder text.
I don't see it on my end either.
You don't see it on your end either? Okay. Well, so I guess I still have to fix the placeholder text. But if you add in custom instructions, it uses those custom instructions now. We had two options. I could either remove it, because we were talking about removing mid features, or add it. And I decided we were already storing the info. So it wasn't a super big leap to just use that info that we were already storing. And I saw in Supabase that some people were using that. And so rather than deprecate something people were already using, I thought, let me just make the thing that people are already using actually work.
There we go.
And so this now does.
Wait, so wait. Can I just back to what you just said, which was great, which was before deciding the feature and how to implement, you check Supabase to see if people were like if it was actually being used. Fuck yeah, sweets. Let's fucking go. That's what I'm talking about.
What color are my cats? And so I can ask a question like, what color are my cats? I just deleted it. And so it should tell me, I know you have 2 cats, Solana and Kalani, which is included, the only thing that's in my knowledge.txt file, but it doesn't know what colors they are. And so if I say, know that my cats are my whole world, Solana is tuxedo and Kalani is gray and white. So if I save this, we can see from my profile that their names are Kalana and Solani, but I don't see anything about their colors. Now, if I say, please check again, because I've just updated the system prompt to have that info, it should now know, you're right, Solana's tuxedo, Kalani's gray and white. And then if I say something like make an image of them in the form of Dr. Seuss, it can then proceed. So this is leading into the next thing that I built. I built an image generator this week. That way you can just come right in and then using all the info that we've already pulled, generate images. So if you say, make an image for a segment, make an image for a specific fan, any type of image generation you want. One way that this is an expansion on what you get in OpenAI is in OpenAI, they don't have all these fan tools and they don't have the knowledge of who you are as an artist. And so when you say to generate an image, it will include that context of who they are, what information you have, and it can chain to get that info before it generates the image. That's information for the context for generating it. Additionally, after the image is generated, unlike on ChatGPT and on Claude and on other LLMs, where that image just kind of sits in Sam Altman's bedroom drawer, and if he decides to shut down the feature, you really can't do anything about it.
Oh,
we're storing this on chain. And so if I say, where can I find this image on Base? I ask it a question for like, what's the link? And it knows the transaction info, and then it can give me that info back. And so you don't need to know that this is on chain. You just see an image. I said, make an image. It gave an image. It didn't, I guess it did mention that it's stored on the blockchain. I'd prefer to actually remove that so that we don't mention anything about on-chain. Only if someone asks in follow-up, like, hey, give me the on-chain info, it gives that. And so then we can see the transaction hash was 24 seconds ago. I didn't need to sign anything. We created a brand new smart wallet. We created a brand new digital collectible, and we've saved that on-chain. And the purpose being to allow you as the creator and the artist to have provenance to this image. Again, unlike Chat and Claude, where if you make an awesome image and they use it in their marketing, they don't necessarily have to give you credit. If you're using Recoup and you generate an image, we instantly tie that credit back to you so that if we use it, or if someone else tries to claim that they did that image, or they want to say that you didn't make that image, you have a hash that nobody can argue with that draws back to you. You made this image on this date and you were the first creator of this intellectual property, which allows, as you're using these agents, to generate intellectual property, which ties back to you and the work that you're doing. So generated the image. This is using Coinbase's Wallet v2 API. We also built a standalone mini app. So if you go to base imagegenerator.vercel.app, this is a standalone version, which works as a mini app inside of Farcaster. I've reduced errors down below 25%.
Way below 25%.
All of the tools were migrated from external to local. And so when you say things like, who's my top fan and what's my top segment, before it would take forever to try to get this, and it would get all that info. It would take a long time, and it would oftentimes override the context window. Now you can see it briefly makes that call, but instantly gets a response. You'll see the tool shows up like momentarily, but the response is instant, which allows it to, even though the responses are smaller, it pushes that creativity into the hands of the AI, so that the AI then says, let me get something. Let me do another thing. Let me do a third thing. And then it chains a whole bunch of these calls together to get whatever subset of the overall information it needs and then presents it. Something that I would, leading into another idea, is we're now using tool invocations for while a tool is running in the output. And so right here, you saw while the image was generating, we showed something that said the tool was being done. And then after that tool executed, we show output from that tool. You noticed while we run things like search for the top fan in all segments, you'll see briefly the status of the tool, but you don't actually see the output of the tool. You saw that brief flash of like in process, but then you don't see the output. And so it just says, let me find that. And then I'm just like, okay, well, what segment did you actually pull? And then it says it pulled a couple more. Well, what were that few more that you pulled? I would love to see little icons in here that give me the social proof so that I can see, okay, that's what it pulled. I don't want to see all JSON. I want to see little images, but that's where we can go from here. Those were the main changes that I made this week. And so I'll stop there and throw it over to you. On your side, what has been shipped this week and what's changed on your side?
Did I do any pull requests at the top of this week? Was that this week or last week?
We can focus on pull requests, but I think your strength is outside. And
yeah, but did I ship anything this week?
Inside of code review, on Monday, you had asked me to follow up, and then you did ship artist auto selects when sharing a chat.
Okay, there we go. That's what I shipped this week. I was gonna say, I can't have a week off at the end of this year, man. I need at least one green dot at once a week, at least minimum. Fucking the power of
interest.
Yeah, I was gonna say just like gamifying your app, but yeah, like okay, so what I shipped, which was actually very helpful this week, was the ability to share chats and then in turn also share artists with other people. So for example, if I want to share a chat with Sweets, I can send over my chat that I have with an artist that I have in my account. And if I share that URL with him and he opens it up, it automatically adds that artist to his account. So he has the context of the chat along with the knowledge base of the artist. And it comes in, and it stays in his recent chats as well. So it's like the first foundation of a couple things. One is shared chats. Another thing is shared artists, and beginning that kind of process. And the way I used this week actually was a couple things. One is a label that I've been working with did an internal study of how their company is using AI. I then took that information and threw it into a chat and had Recoup basically analyze the study and the CSV file, in this case, it was just like a markdown file. And then once I got all of the results, I was able to send the CEO the URL, and he was able to open it up in chat, see my conversation. It also added the context with the artist, or in this case, it was his record label as the artist. So yeah, it was just like a very flawless. I've been able to share a lot more conversations comfortably, knowing that like the artists if somebody wants to continue a conversation, they're gonna have all the context.
Has it been working for them? Have you found it has been working as you expected?
Yeah.
Have you noticed any shortcomings or anything that you want to fix after shipping this to production? Or is it working flawlessly without no notes, 10 out of 10?
I haven't run into any issues yet. So yeah, 10 out of 10 so far, which is great. I mean, like the only thing that I'm thinking through is like when I was building the feature, the question mark came up on, well, what if I want to share the conversations as well?
All the conversations?
Like exactly. Like, so let's say I'm sharing a chat with you.
Yeah.
What it currently does is duplicate the chat.
Right.
So you have yours, I have mine, and you're just kind of, it's forking it in your thing.
Yep.
The idea, like the other feature idea was like, well, what if I want to share a chat so I can see how you're talking to, it's basically a group message, me, you, and the LLM.
Mm-hmm.
And what would that look like? But it just became like a much bigger PR. And, if anything, I've learned anything, it's don't add those features. That's a whole subset of a different feature, which is group messages, which is really cool because that's something that ChatGPT doesn't really have. Claude kind of has with projects, but it's not used well. Like I don't see a lot of people using it, but it's something that I know I would get value out of. You would get value out of if I was just able to be like, yo, a group message with me, you, and the LLM suites would be fire, because then it just makes things a little more interesting. So that's why I think the next feature, but for what the PR was, it was great. And what else did I ship? Other than that, I shipped a lot of conversations with Benji from Rostrum, which was just me and him. I think I had a conversation with him like maybe once every day this week. And we're at the ending phases of that enterprise sale. I'm really excited about this enterprise sale because it's from the top level, the CEO of a highly successful independent record label being incredibly aware and able to like roll out an AI native operating system across his company. Like he can easily just be like, hey, everybody, I need you to start using AI. And here's the guy. So it kind of force functions. So I'm really excited about that. He's really been an interesting person to talk to. So I'll update you more. Like I don't want to over spend time on something that isn't closed yet, but I will say that if it does close, when it does close, it's going to be a huge leap forward of being able to get in front of real life users in a record label, understand how the record label operates from their perspective, and say, okay, what is a workflow that you do that every day that we can literally automate for you tomorrow? And so, yeah, it gives us the ability to shadow users, like very specifically record label executives who are putting out music every single day. So that's really fun. And I'm really excited about that.
Have you thought about when you close Rostrum sale, how does our roadmap change?
I have. And I've been thinking through it. It depends. I'm laying out the current menu of options for him. Because one of the things that he was concerned with was like, which I think you'll love this actually, Sweets. He was like, well, listen, what happens if you guys sell to Sony one day and like my entire operating system is on your platform? And so he's already thinking about like provenance and like ownership and like how does he retain the operating system that he's built it here. And I think that's something that I'm very interested in when it comes to knowledge bases and prompting and personal workflows, like that all can be held on chain and that all can go and hopefully eventually become adopted in other AI tools and like whatever, but you have it and it never goes away. Even if we sell to Sony, even if we sunset the product, you still have your operating system and everything that you built. So that was something that we were talking about. And I think the first thing we landed on is like figuring out a way to white label Recoup. So it looks a little bit more branded. It feels a little bit more branded for his company. My initial immediate thought was just like, okay, if anybody signs in with his label's email address, we just change the logos, like make it like that kind of white label quickly, but then thinking through what the infrastructure looks like.
Yep.
But then, yeah, I think like just moving forward with that, it just becomes like, how do me and you spend our time effectively building with this one team from the ground up? Like, in my head, it's one-on-oneing with as many people in their company as possible to extract prompts that they're already doing that they just don't realize are prompts, so like they have things in their head that they're probably doing and thinking and whatever. How do we put that into like a prompt library for them? And then the other thing is like just literally sitting down and being like, explain to me what you do every day. Explain to me show me how you do it. and then identifying, oh, that thing, we can literally build a tool, an agent specifically for this function, you know. And then if we can just slowly get one person to religiously use Recoup because it replaces something that they did for 2 hours into like 10 minutes every day, like that's just like a really easy, like small wins. So that's what I'm thinking through on that. And then, but again, like I said, like when it closes, we'll really go into full gear on how the roadmap, how we shift roadmap. But the other thing is just speaking to, who else did I speak to? I emailed Steph and their team about the new feature. I looped you in on that.
Which one? Image generation or what new feature?
Image gen. Yeah. Image gen. So like, and they all read it. I haven't checked if they've, if based on that, they
I don't think I've seen any new combos from their team this week.
And then the other thing was Big Ass Kids. And Big Ass Kids is, I'm really excited about as well, because she was like literally a huge champion of the product. And again, going back to like, she was like, man, I wish it could just do this, because I spend 30 minutes of my time every time I have a sales call. She basically, like they have like a community, and then they and a distribution company, and then they pick people that they think are like good for their record label, and then they have like a sales call, I guess an onboarding call, so to speak. Before the onboarding call, Carolyn goes and researches the artist, who they are, listens to their music, so that she comes to this onboarding call with like a plan of like, listen, if you come into our artist services, like we would do this, this is our strategy, like, you know, I like your music, etc. So it's like a 30-minute to hour-long research that she's doing. And she was like, I wish I could use Recoup, because it would cut my 30 minutes of research into 1 minute. So that's where the onboarding and knowledge base creation upfront came in. Was she's requesting it, and she has 500 to 1,000 artists in the pipeline that she's like ready and willing to be like, yes, go use Recoup. I'm using it. So I think that's the next kind of the stage of this. Questions, thoughts, comments?
I'm glad you're focusing on the calls. It gives me knowledge of what the important things are. And that leads to the question that I have of what specific feature, if added, puts wind at your back for every sales call that you are going into.
Onboarding.
Cool.
Our onboarding right now. But before we get, I'm sorry. I want to just, before we get into that, because it comes with a lot of stuff and we could go in it, I want to knock out Coinbase and and Base ships this week. Maybe at least think on it, and then maybe we can tie onboarding, payments, deep research all into it. But I don't want to save that for last. I want to start there.
Yeah, I've asked both teams for next week's prompts so that I could start preparing. Neither of them have replied, and I have a feeling they're all focused on FarCon. They're all probably in New York right now doing FarCon stuff. So for now, assuming it's the same prompts as this week, which on base is MiniKit, which I feel I've been killing it on. I've had other people come up to me and just feel like I'm obsessed with MiniKit. And the Coinbase Wallet v2 API on the Coinbase side, which it feels like they're happy with how I've been doing it. I do need to get their specific feedback on. So how do they overlap right now? If we continued with Mini App or Wallet API v2 into next week, I really like what you said about the question of what happens if we sell to Sony. And I was thinking about this a few minutes, maybe an hour ago, when I was walking around my kitchen. I'm like, it's hard for devs to understand on chain. Like Veerball doesn't have crypto and he doesn't get crypto, but he's gravitated towards AI. And it seems like most devs have a challenging time getting up to using it. I think it is a major infrastructure shift that is inevitable and will continue to happen. And I think one of the things that it's storage, and being able to put that storage publicly allows the network to grow organically. And so if the more things that we're putting on chain and linking to that wallet that they get from Privy, the more they can go in and tie that in and have it be composable with everything else. And then the question of if you get sold to Sony, well, good thing we don't own anything and everything's been in your account, which you own. The less we use Supabase and the more we store things on chain, we get two birds, one stone, multiple birds with one stone. One, we don't have to worry about mapping it into Supabase. If we ever need to reference it, we just query on chain. Two, if we ever shut down or Supabase stops working, who cares? There's a global decentralized network of computers that are making sure that this info is always available to whoever needs it. Three, it becomes highly composable. Anybody else who's building on-chain tools start to see, wow, there's a lot of traffic that's coming from these Recoup guys. And it's not because they're building on our APIs, it's because they're building on our graph that exists on chain. So I think the more that we put on chain, the more these tailwinds start to add up and the compounding interest starts to add up. So for now, I don't think we need, I appreciate you highlighting it. For now, I'm not sure we need to prioritize anything into our roadmap other than potentially saying like, okay, we are storing images on chain. We're not storing the mermaid charts that Veerbal just added on chain. We're not storing the list of fans on chain. Do we want to go to the extreme and store everything? I don't know. That feels like a bland, insincere prescription.
It is. It is.
So I think being more intentional of like, okay, we did this thing, we're excited about it. A simple thing that I haven't done and would be easy to add is right now it's storing on base Sepolia instead of base mainnet. And I'm not storing all the fields properly. And so if you go to in process to try to view the token, you're not going to be able to view it on Manifold, on OpenSea, on other platforms. So we're doing a transaction hash, but I'm not setting up the token all the way. So two simple things I can add into my goals for next week are for Wallet V2 would be one, stored on base instead of Sepolia, put it on mainnet. And then two, make it so that you can see it on OpenSea, on what would be your preferred platform? I guess you have
process.
Thank you. In process, in OpenSea. Make sure that I can see them on both of those platforms, the tokens that are being created. That allows me to keep making videos for Wallet V2. And when I'm making videos for Wallet V2, it's also improving the Recoup product, aligning the interests without me having to spend duplicate time on both. So on the Coinbase side, as long as they don't give me a new prompt, I can go down that path. On the base side, I have a feeling it'll tie in with MiniKit when we get into the onboarding call, whatever.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Let's say I'm an enterprise client and I'm experimenting in Recoup with creating images for an artist rollout that isn't released yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want those images to be publicly available on OpenSea because the label hasn't announced the album's coming out yet. What happens?
As of right now, all images we generate are stored on Arweave permanently. So anybody can go to Arweave, and that's just where we store our images. And we're storing them on base and on in process, which has more discoverability, having a feed and curation. So if someone explicitly does not want that, we're going to have to build a new pipeline for that specific customer and understand where do they want their images stored, if not on Arweave permanently, knowing that if it's not permanent, those images might get deplatformed if whoever is hosting them stops paying for them. And then we would need to make sure that they have a specific version of the tool so that those people are not having their images stored on base as well. So it gives you an opportunity to upsell on that for tech that we have yet to build, but would build for them if they have that explicit need.
Yeah, and it's
right
not something that it's not something that people are asking for. It's not a big problem right now. But I do know that as we scale, like the confidentiality of and what that line is, right? Because like I don't think storage on Arweave is not necessary. Storage on our like then you kind of have to be like looking for the thing and be like a
Agreed.
sleuth, right? So like, that's like a little that's less of a big deal
Then
as
on in process and OpenSea showing up in
exactly. Like so thinking through that, like
yeah.
But I also am thinking just through like what you had mentioned, Verbal like adding a download button to the images and Mermaid, and I also think that maybe just like adding a view on Etherscan or view on base scan, and then maybe like an add to in process, like so like having those as 3 icons at the top or something, so it like you have the choice of doing it, or I don't know. This is we don't need to go down this rabbit hole. It's not an immediate next step, but it's something I guess just in the back of your head to kind of bubble around.
If someone asked in a call right now, I would say so far we have leaned into wanting to give provenance to you and your artists so that when you're generating on our platform, you have a clear line to say, I generated this and nobody can challenge you on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's more important.
If you guys want it to be private, we can talk about that. As of right now, we have leaned into making sure that you have full attribution of any media being generated on the platform, which is something that OpenAI and Claude and the other LLMs don't give you, because we care about musicians having clear provenance to the work that they are generating with AI.
I agree.
And then any other privacy on top of that, we can talk about as an upsell.
Yeah. I also think that the thing you had mentioned about like what else can we be storing on chain, and my immediate thought was like knowledge bases and instructions, because they're things that like right now, if I go to use OpenAI, if I go to use ChatGPT, if I go to use Claude, I have to retype my instructions, retype my prompts, like, or copy and paste them, and so like there is that like repeatability of the same shit if I want the same shit. Like, so there's something inside me that it would wishes that I could log into all of these with my wallet and have my personality as an NFT, so that it just knows my preferences. It knows who I am. It knows my prompts. It knows that I always want you to write an email quick to read and easy to understand. I never have to write that, Right. So I think that's something really cool there. When we want to talk about like where do we store personality for people, from the artist level, the org level, and the user level. Okay, cool. Awesome.
We just passed halfway point for the meeting today. We've covered what we shipped this week. What is left on my list are errors below 25%, onboarding, what are the ideal flow for setting up new artists, next week plans, what specific tasks are my priorities for next week, Veerball, what are next steps for Veerball, or do we want to continue that, and customer success, which is a point you said, and I'm not sure what the question is on that one.
We kind of already touched it, which was just like what I did this week and what I'm doing next week with customer success.
Should I cross off customer success, or do we want to?
No, we can cross it off.
Copy. Then we have 4 items left. Errors below 25%, onboard, next week tasks, Veerball. Which one's going to be most impactful for the time we have?
Errors are absolutely below 25%. So let's cross that off.
I'll do the actual, put it in the rear view for now.
Yeah, it's good. And like I'll do the actual numbers, but I have not felt, I've used the platform a lot this week and have not gotten stopped, except for like a new feature when you're like asking me to test. So
from your perspective, what would you say was the root cause? What do you think was the single change that was made between
the tools? Like too much context going to the tools. You're right. At least I think that's what the main thing was. Like,
have you lost anything by me making that migration? Because one of the things I've still wanted to do is delete the deprecated endpoints, and I've held off just in case you've lost something with this migration. Do you feel you've lost any context or any power in these tools' responses as a result of this migration? Instead of yes, no, what has gone down in quality or in performance as a result of the migration to these new tools?
I guess it's just been more specific tool calls or results, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if I ask what comment should I respond to, right? Like it's only searching for a very limited amount, right? And so like it gives me a much more specific window, you know, if I previously it would have showed me like, well, you have 100 comments and this, and like, so it gave me a little bit more trust that it's actually looking through everything, and now it's not, you know. So so it's just that it's that like
a smaller set of results, a more precise set of results are what we're receiving right now.
It's a more precise set of results, but it's also like less, it's giving me a less it's showing me less about what it has access to, which makes me trust the result less. I mean, I also keep in mind, like I know what's going on in the background too. So it's like my view on this might be different. Somebody might not read into it that much, you know?
Yeah. What parameters, this is an internal question for myself, what parameters could I add to the API endpoints in the tools so that the limited set of results the AI is getting is more precise for what you're looking for? Things like if you're asking for a comment right now, I don't know if I'm filtering comments by earliest first or latest first. Would it be more helpful if we're filtering by earliest first or latest first? Would it be helpful to have in getting of comments sort by responders' number of followers? That way, in the instant response, it's getting comments from people with the most followers.
Here, you know, pull it up right quick.
Pull what up?
Pull up Recoup and ask the comments question. Who should I comment on and why? Or what comments this week should I follow up on and why? Because that was the real question from Steph, was if I have my artist, you know, gets a bunch of comments every week, they only have a second to respond to them. Which one should we make sure we respond to? You're not sharing your screen, by the way.
I'm not. Unable to share screen. Please go to the help center.
Uh-oh. Should I do it?
I'm trying again. Looks like I might have gotten it, unless you just did it.
No, that's you. See, and then right there. Now let me check the posts from one of your most recent social profiles.
Instagram. In Mackin, who I was already mentioning, Pete Rango, you know, these actually seem like good people.
These are great, and the tool works. But I guess like what I'm saying is the downgrade wasn't necessarily the results. It's more of like the reasoning, and if it goes down the path that I was expecting it to, because it's so limited now. You said which comment should I reply to and why? You didn't say what social channel.
You didn't say check all socials, right? And so now it becomes a little bit more on you to specify your prompt.
Exactly.
Now it'll say, okay, let me check on X account because you have the most followers there. Check Twitter comments. It's going to go through each platform now. So it'll take more time in the reasoning. Now it's going to check TikTok. And then it'll check Instagram.
So it's just like it just becomes like more of like a prompting thing, like, you know, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just like an education thing.
We have room to improve. I agree with you. There is still room to improve. And you've made it clear. I appreciate you giving me a reason instead of just saying it's working great. It's good to objectively and clearly see where you feel limited in this, so that way we can navigate reality more clearly instead of just hyping ourselves up, telling ourselves we're doing well.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, the whole purpose of this was to improve chat responses,
fix errors, right?
And that we did, right? Like, so point blank period, that has been a huge success. So now it becomes optimizing, right? What was your thing? Make it work, make it right, make it awesome.
Yep, that's it.
Cool. We made it work. Now we're on the next step.
Excellent. Any pushback to me deleting those endpoints next week? Is now a time where you're feeling confident to delete, or should I give it another week before asking again if we can delete the deprecated endpoints?
Why is there? Give me put yourself in my shoes, and then give me a reason why I would want to go back to them. Is there a query that like I'm like what the hell? Like I can't get this. We got to go back to those.
It's what you're saying of I want all that data. I want all that data in one single query.
Yeah, but you could just rewrite them, right? Like
we could always rewrite it, and if we rewrite it, it'll likely be more efficient.
Yeah, so then get rid of them.
Copy. Delete deprecated endpoints. If you're watching this and you're using one of our deprecated endpoints and we're going to impact you by deleting these, please let me know. I have not done deep research to see how many other people are built on top of our APIs. So to be honest, if you have been building on our APIs, I have not been tracking it. So if you're watching this specific moment, which is very unlikely, but please let me know if I'm going to impact you, because otherwise I'm going to be deleting all 4 of these endpoints that are marked for deprecation. I will be deleting those going into next week. Okay, delete deprecated endpoints. We have 3 items left on my roadmap. Onboarding, what's the ideal flow for setting up new artists? What specific tasks are my priorities for next week? Or Veerbal, how did he do? What's our next steps? Are we continuing the contract?
Let's talk about onboarding, which then also falls into like tasks for next week.
Agreed.
And like define what onboarding means. I have a couple of thoughts. I want to get your thoughts.
Go ahead.
I'll break it down into the exact flow that Caroline asked for. Mm-hmm. Because that's really who we want to build onboarding for, because she's the one that's going to be using the product and telling people to use it. Mm-hmm. So, well, actually, it's Caroline, and then when she sends it to other people. So there's also that section. The first thing, onboarding, we'll merge. Actually, instead of onboarding, I want to call it like, oh fuck, it's like onboarding and adding new artists are one and the same in this scenario, because she's already onboarded, but her whole thing is like when she adds a new artist, she needs to hit X, Y, and Z, and then when she sends one of those new artists to the platform, we need to be able to do X, Y, and Z. So here's the things that needs to happen. We need to make it much simpler to add an artist and only show the things that we're actually tracking. So right now, let's just be real, and I'm gonna pull this up and let's walk through it. Can you see me?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, cool. Let me pull this. All right, so I'm Carolyn, and I'm like, all right, I have a meeting coming up, and I need to. I have a meeting coming up with this new artist named. Oh man, give me an artist.
Mac Miller, Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, cool. Wiz Khalifa, right? So I'm gonna and I have a meeting in 30 minutes, so I want to do research on them, and I want to listen to their music, and then I need to come up with some marketing plans around that artist. So I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna go to new artist. All right, so I'm her, so I'm gonna go Wiz Khalifa, and then I'm gonna fill all of this out because it says I should fill all of this out, right? And so the first thing I'm thinking is like, maybe we don't show them this. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter if they fill any of this stuff out, right? Only show them what they only show them what we need, what the information that we need from them in order to do onboarding. So let's just say we just need Wiz Khalifa. The second thing that I was thinking is like our scraping. Like lately, what I've been doing is going. I think Wiz Khalifa is a great one because it's our scraping is dependent on how big the artist is, how good the results are, and if it works or not. So let's just say Wiz Khalifa. We'll say save. So right now it does this, goes and gets the handles
Does your ideal onboarding experience include redirecting them away from the chat like this?
No.
I agree.
No, it should just be a new chat for that artist.
Did you mean to stop sharing?
No, am I not sharing anymore?
It stopped just now, and I don't know why.
All right. Let me show.
Got it back.
So yeah, it goes here.
I guess we can talk about this. We can either keep talking about what it is and what we want to change, or we just say this is what the ideal experience is and we build towards ideal experience instead of, and kind of ignore what we already have.
Yeah, perfect. Then let's ignore what we currently already have. Like ideal experiences, she can come in, press plus, find the artist on Spotify, you know, like, because that's pretty much where they're going to be.
So we focus on connecting the Spotify. We try querying that artist name in Spotify, show Spotify lists, Spotify search list.
Yeah.
Okay, so they click create new artist. We then ask them, and so they click the button in the bottom right. Clicking the button in the bottom right will then open a new chat and immediately ask them what's the name of the artist. So clicking on the new artist button in the bottom right opens a new chat, and then they give us the artist name. We then use that artist name, run it through Spotify. Spotify gives us an array of artists that are matched. We display X number of profile pictures as buttons. And then they select an artist from that list. What happens if it didn't match correctly, or if the profile that they are searching does not have a Spotify, etc. Those, I think, are edge cases that we will need to build. Do we want to consider those now, or do we want to focus on Caroline and musicians to keep moving forward?
Keep moving forward.
Agreed. So they've selected an artist. What is our next step? An ideal onboarding.
Ideal onboarding.
They clicked the button, new chat opened. They typed in the name of the artist. We searched on Spotify. They saw the list. They selected Wiz Khalifa. We now know it's Wiz Khalifa. We know the Spotify profile, and we haven't searched it yet, but we could potentially go and then scrape the Spotify and all the info from there and do Spotify scraping. Do we immediately kick off Spotify scraping when they've selected the button?
Yeah.
Or throwing it back to you at this point, what's ideal next step for Caroline in onboarding a new artist?
The most important next step, I'm sorry, I wouldn't say the most important next step, but I'll say like the one thing that has like consistently added value regardless of anything else is having the knowledge base, the deep research knowledge base. Because that knowledge base gives everything about who the artist is, the stage of their career, their last singles they dropped, everything. It's all there. Like the knowledge, the prompt that I'm using for that deep research is also like, you know, make sure to do deep research on like what brands they should work with and why, and this like, so it sets up the whole thing. It roots the artist in like just having the thing to have intelligence without having to like go ask Perplexity every time.
Yep.
And so that I would say is like the main thing. And then I'll say like the other main thing is just the personalization from the UI perspective. So having pulling the PFP makes it really, pulling the PFP from Spotify. Yeah, any data we can pull from Spotify just to have more context and just, you know, add more info. But I think those are the main onboarding things. If we want to go one more layer deep, which I don't know if it's necessary, is capped scraping across their socials. So do the Instagram scraper, but only for their 12 posts and the comments like we're doing. If we're going to do TikTok, only for the 12, like very capped amounts of scraping. So their segments are filled in. But again, keep in mind, like I didn't do scraping for Benji and Rostrum. I'm only operating off of knowledge bases. And he's been getting good results. The only thing he doesn't have is the ability to go into the segments tab
No segments, no knowledge of fans, no knowledge of posts, no knowledge of comments on posts.
Correct. But he hasn't asked those things yet. But again, he's the CEO. So he's probably not in the day-to-day trenches being like, what's the next comment I should do? Like he asked questions like, tell me, actually he asked a great question, which was, I'm going to pull it up. Give me a second. Can you share my screen?
Not yet.
I'll show you this, the stuff that my favorite are the things that people message me about, right? Like they go out of their way to be like, wow, this, boom. So he sent this, he said, I thought this was a really interesting answer, which was, tell me something about Julius, the artist, that I would likely not know without looking deeply into his data.
And then what tools were called?
Just knowledge base.
So no tools. Can you expand reasoning just to verify?
I don't have this.
Oh, there's a screenshot? Okay.
Yeah. But it went into like, you know, how his fans like hero villain arcs and all of this and et cetera. So like, you know, that's what he asked that. But so yeah, I guess like, I don't want to overcomplicate onboarding. And I want to ship it. And so like, I would lean towards not, maybe, I don't know, man. I'll leave it up to you to decide whether adding scraping is of value this version of onboarding or not.
At least Spotify scraping makes sense.
Yeah.
So what I've heard, click on the artist button, new chat triggers a new tool, which is set up new artist, which prompts you for your artist name. Given the artist name, it then saves that artist inside of Spotify. After that, we then use Spotify search to look up the artist. We display the list of results for what we found on Spotify. They select an artist. This is a tool that needs to be built of search and connect new profile, which will allow the searching of a profile. We'll start with Spotify, showing the results that we found for a search, allowing someone to select one of the many results that we found, which then associates the profile. And then following that, we need a new tool for knowledge-based deep research, something that goes and continues to iterate on itself until it feels that it has searched enough. It iterates over setting search things that it needs to search for, goes and gets those search results using Perplexity, and that's going to be following the Vercel masterclass video that they had of that algorithm that iterates over itself until it has enough info to have completed the task. We also need to scrape on Spotify, and after that, they have a PFP, they have their deep research, they have Spotify scraped. That's it, but it primes us into a good position to then extend this to other platforms like, hey, please connect my Instagram.
Correct.
This is my handle. Okay, we then show the PFPs for Instagram. They click on it, it kicks off an Instagram scraper. The same for Farcaster, the same for Twitter, the same for any social platform. Let's focus on Spotify because that seems to be what is going to add the most value to you in your calls. Once we get that, that opens up one answered question leads to two more questions. So we'll fork from there. But are you in agreement that Spotify is the single thing such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? Or is there a better platform to start with that adds more value than Spotify for onboarding of new artists?
Spotify, start there, deep research second. The third thing, and this is the final thing, but it's the most important thing, is we need to change the way our payments and credits are set up, because right now they're set up for segments.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, we set up, instead of it being attached to segments and a credit system, it is a free trial for 14 days, whatever, to say something simple. And then it's the $99 per month. And then what this allows, and I would say just a paywall across the entire app, or we just give a bunch of credits which are attached to tokens. Like, I don't want to overcomplicate a credit system right now because we haven't really thought it out. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if Caroline starts to onboard people and send this to people and she's creating their artist, and then I'm just like, Caroline, to onboard people, all you have to do is just share a chat that you did like during your deep research or during your research with them. and it will add that. It'll just basically add an artist for them. But we want the paywall to come up first and say, hey, like sign up to Recoup first and start a 14-day free trial. Thoughts on that? Because I haven't really dove into the payment system yet. And I don't want to overcomplicate it on this round. But I do want to capture value if people are
and they're wanting to capture value. If you feel the product's in a place where you're ready to start upselling, then let's get those upselling mechanisms in. And keeping it simple for now will allow us to, like you say, ship it fast, not overcomplicate it. I think just making sure that whatever the wording is that we use, giving ourselves wiggle room, that we're not locked into this forever, so that if we ever want to go to more refined credits instead of broad unlimited use subscription, we can still change those later on, and people won't get upset and churn by us realizing, oh shoot, there's power users that are using way more than $99 per month worth of credits, but we're not billing them based off of credits. Let's get to that place first, because currently we don't have anybody who's running up a bill so much that we have to worry about it. So I agree with yours. Let's focus right now on free and premium until that model does not work, because someone in premium is running up a bill way more than what they're paying us.
Yeah, and I have a document that I started to think through this, kind of aligning with what I was talking about with Rostrum. But the idea being, there's a baseline subscription for all artists, and it's dependent on the Spotify listener range. And the reason why is because, like, Wiz Khalifa, when we scrape his comments, like, in order to make a dent, is going to require a lot more scraping up front. Mm-hmm. So, like, versus if you have no Spotify fans or listeners, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, like, so, like, thinking about, like, how, like, what size and stage the artist is in decides, like, the base layer of their subscription, mm-hmm. and how much credits they get per month. Right. And then tying, like, what does those credits tie into is what we haven't really decided, and how we want to go into it. But, like, right. I'm just thinking, like, from tokens to scraping to storage to whatever it is, right? Like the agent runs, like all of that. Like I'm thinking of it almost on like just like a compute, quote unquote, credit system.
Which is going to make the most sense in the medium term. That way we're not spending too much on the compute, because that's how everybody's billing us, is compute. And so if we do the same, it allows us to properly scale as our own expenses are scaling.
Exactly. So I'm thinking, like, we start with onboarding here, right? And we just get this system in place. Or I don't even know about this credits per month, but, like, just get here, right. And we can always, like, add the credit system. I don't know. It's like, dive into it to see, like, if it's easy to add credits or whatever. But as long as we just get this, where, like, you can jump on, you can try the platform, and after 14 days or a month or whatever we decide, like, the trial is, like, it's like, all right, cool, like pay, like, you know, and for the thing, and then we can kind of go from there.
Will people be able to have a free? Is in your vision there is a free tier forever, or everybody after X number of days either pays or they get kicked out of our system and unable to make new chats?
It's a good question.
I'm thinking of people like Mackin, people like Paloma, people like Bully Meow. Paloma, if forced to pay based off of what I know about them, will not, because that's likely the reason they're not using chat and other platforms right now. And so if you're fine with them getting rolled off, that's fine. I just know our current quarterly goal is increase the number of retained chatters and not get everybody to pay us money. As of right now, that's our quarterly goal. Are we at the stage where you want to change our quarterly goal to focus on finances? This doesn't need to get answered right now. Payments is going to be a sub goal for me going into next week. My main goal is onboarding.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. Yeah, you're on the. Yeah, thank you for bringing me back. Like, I want to be able to capture the value if it's there, but I also don't want to stop people from using it. I want to hit our goal. So there's like a half of, like, maybe there's like a system where it's I don't know. I have to think through it.
Personally, I still think we're at the place of needing someone to fall in love with the product. If they, until we're there, we're overthinking paying because nobody's going to be willing to pay if they're not in love with the product.
I agree.
List of tasks, onboarding, next week's priorities, Veerbal. We're talking about onboarding. Do you feel that we are clearly defined on onboarding based off of what I've got on my list? One, someone clicks a new artist button, it starts a new chat. They enter in an artist name. Step two, we show the Spotify search results. They select an artist from that list. We do deep research. We show the Spotify PFP. Is anything missing from that in order for the onboarding conversation to feel complete to you?
Yeah, I want to talk through one option. And I want to the simplest solution for this, which is I've also been using the right hands, not just as artists, but like I also have like Rostrum. I also have Recoup. I also have myself. So it's becoming not just about artists, at least like in my use case. So I'm thinking in the onboarding, give them the option to not select a Spotify. You know, if it's not an artist, if it's like something else, like just bypass the Spotify thing and just maybe say like, oh, okay, well then what is this? Like, well, it's for the record company, it's for the label, or it's for the marketing department, or it's for like, you know, just how do we, if they're not an artist, what happens?
So option to skip steps 3 and 4 on this list.
Yeah.
When you show the results from step 4, give them an option to skip.
Yeah.
What else
And that way I
discussed
that way I
in
can
order to
continue
properly
with-
set where we're going to?
I think we're good. I think that's it.
Okay. My list of next week priorities, I have onboarding, which includes a lot. If I'm able to finish onboarding, payments.
You're right. I want you scratch payments. You're right.
There's a lot of new tools, and I have a feeling each new tool I add, you're going to have feedback on them. There's no designs for it, so I'm going to be building it without designs. Onboarding, which is going to be a lot of new tools. In process, make sure that images that are being posted show up on the in process, at least on the artist page. Delete deprecated endpoints. That's my list for next week. I'm good on next week. I'm good on onboarding. Anything you want to talk about on next week or onboarding?
Nope. Well,
Okay.
I mean, next week I'm still in customer mode. So
Good. That's where we need you.
cool.
Deprecated. Veerball is the last thing. Or do we skip that for now and talk about them on async offline?
No, I think we talk. What are your thoughts?
He is posting green flags. He's posting publicly. Well, what is the question that we're orienting this around? Do you have a question in mind that makes this an effective conversation for us to talk about Veerball?
Sure. Should we continue to throw him tests to see if he passes? And if so, what tests?
Follow up to that, how do we determine if he is effective? How do we determine if he's effective enough to create a longer term contract?
Correct.
Should we give him more tasks to determine if he's effective?
Correct.
And in order to determine if they're effective, we have to ask ourselves, what does an effective dev look like? That way I can communicate that to him so that he is aware of what it is we're grading on. I think I'm fine giving him another week. And I also like the idea of defining what determines an effective dev. On my side, an effective dev ships at least 2 pull requests per day.
Why?
Consistency is important. Green dot shippers, regardless of what you're shipping, making that step and practicing builds compounding interest.
Like it.
If you're not doing it every day, your mind's on something else. It doesn't need to be a major, but doing something builds the most compounding interest. I found that in my own practice, and it's something I like for others. 2 pull requests per day. Implements the feedback when I give it. I don't know how to phrase this as like, I like when you argue if you have a backbone, if you think that it's right. But if I've told you something and then you just want to say we can optimize it later, feels like an insincerity on when we do something, we do it right. So number of iterations of feedback. I don't know if I can put a number on it, but we want to reduce the number of iterations of feedback. The goal being we can get him into the same state that I have Jad, where I let him ship and I'm not even reviewing his code because he has gone through the review process enough. He has improved based off of each iteration he's done with me. And he now understands my quality of excellence so that he can enforce himself and police himself. I can go back to shipping and I'm not, because right now I'm spending more time reviewing his pull request, which is fine as long as it's fine.
Yeah, as long as it ends up being shorter in the long run.
Yeah. 2 pull requests per day, reduce iterations of feedback, and reduction of tech debt. Some way to phrase like that should for now get shipped in number of iterations. Those might be good enough for now. Shipping if he's shipping 2 pull requests per day, and he is over the next week reducing the number of iterations, that is already enough for me to see he is improving and making an effective contribution on our team.
Yeah, I would add, and I really love what you just said about tech debt, is like understands when he is adding tech debt and justifies it. I'm cool with tech debt if it makes us ship faster. That's as a startup, that's one of our superpowers is we can incur tech debt, but we're gonna have to pay it eventually.
Right.
So don't ship it without does he understand when there's tech debt that he's shipping? And is he shipping anyways because of a good reason? If yes, let's go. If he's like unaware that he's building a bunch of tech debt, that's the problem.
Now that we know what determines an effective dev, 2 pull requests per day, reducing overall the number of iterations of feedback, and understands when they're adding tech debt. Going back to your question, should we give Veerbal more tasks to determine if they're effective? That's a yes or no question. I would say yes.
I say yes.
Clearly communicate what we're going to be judging on in the next week. Let him know that this is still trial period. I guess going off of that, right now you are the one paying him, not me. So financially on your side, I guess you got to think right now. You're orienting the conversation. Is that how you would like it to be? Is moving forward, you are communicating pay, you are telling him you have the final call on what he's working on and tasks, or should I start to have the conversations with him moving into next week? I am paying him and I am the final say on approval of if his contract continues or not.
No, let's keep it this way for now. I don't want to overcomplicate it, and also I don't want to throw a wrench in your system. Like I want to make it very simple. Like also like he was talking about like how do I do crypto and this and that, and like I can pay him PayPal, and until we get to a point where we're like, yo, this is worth it, and let's keep it moving, and you know, like let's just keep the momentum going. What I do think is like I want to. I want to test him this weekend because I like that he asked if we take weekends off. I was like, it's up to you, bro. So like, I'm going to send him a scope after this of like, here's what we need you to do. Please scope it out. Tell me like, you know, how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take you to do. So we just got to come up with like those things. My question is, should we add a bunch of things to scope, or should we just one at a time? Like, here's the next thing.
I will give you a list of enough tasks such that he can produce 2 pull requests per day. So I'll give a sufficient list for what I feel is like a Jad level of 1 week of work.
Perfect. Let's do that. And then also that'll allow me to see like what his thoughts are not with
Right,
just
right.
one shipment, but like, yeah, what's he going to charge with like a bigger
After
request?
seeing what it's like to communicate with me.
Exactly. My other question is, if your objective is, one of the objectives is to reduce the iteration time, is there value in you spending 30-minute meeting with him, showing him how to do that with you, or at least writing some kind of document
I've got my
stating,
doc. As soon as you said
yeah,
it, I've got my developer doc. I have not sent that to him yet. I can send him the dev doc. So I'll send him
yeah,
I'll lead these communications on what determines an effective dev. I'll send it in our shared chat, and I will also send my dev requirements doc. I haven't updated it in a while, so there might be some out-of-date things, but I'll send that doc as well.
yeah. Just give him something so that like we can. There's a learning path there, but yeah, I'm gonna agree. Like, if we can get him to all the little things and all the little feature requests that, UI requests, feature requests, little tiny things that, like, you have, you had 4 things that you want to do to the image gen, but like, should you be doing them, or can you just send them to him to wrap it up?
Right.
So yeah, I'm cool with that. All right, awesome. I know we're at 3. This was awesome.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We just hit 111.11, so make sure you give us from angel numbers. Other than that,